Hi guys, this is Bill from Spencer1984.com. Today we're taking a look at the long-awaited 83 Hurst Oldsmobile kit from Revell. This poor kit's been stuck in development hell for so long that a lot of people weren't even sure if it was going to come out or not, but Revell did pull through and it finally hit shelves earlier this year. Just taking a quick look at the box. Front panel is pretty standard Revell with the special edition on it. You got all the call-outs and other information. A repeat of the cover on both ends, and some close-up shots, which the photos and the way that it looks very much like one of the vintage Revell kits. And inside the box, the first thing we've got is a decal sheet. It's got the stripes on it. Again, very reminiscent of their older kits, especially the Monte Carlo SS. The instruction sheet is their current standard, where it's got the full parts list inside, and then typical exploded diagram style. Paint and decal markings on the back, very much like their Starsky and Hutch Gran Torino kit. All of the kit parts are separately bagged, like the chrome sprue here. And you can see they actually have some nice detailing on the wheels, including the red rings on them. The clear sprue has the windshield, rear window, opera windows, and all the light lenses. The taillights are another bag, cast in clear red. A set of generic no-name tires. The casting on them is actually pretty nice. Got decent treads on them, not too heavy, and clean sidewalls, so you can add your own white letter decals to them. And we got the engine, which unfortunately they decided to do old style with a split right down the middle of it. I really wish they had done a separate oil pan on that, because this never turns out quite right without a lot of work. And here we've got the valve covers cast as part of the heads. Now that's a little unusual. You got a really nice looking front end here. Even though it's cast as one piece, the Starsky and Hutch Torino was one piece, and that ended up looking pretty nice, so I've got some faith in this one looking good as well. It's got the split exhaust system, engine detailing down there at the bottom. Here we've got the rest of the engine details, along with the rear suspension arms. Back axle, springs, wheel retainers. And again, there's pretty fine detailing on that rear end, though it is open on the top side. And the second bag, first thing we've got is the chassis pan. And it does have the Revell information stamped onto the fuel tank, which is probably a best case scenario. Because I know that they've got to do it, and at least there it's easy to sand off, not like on the kits where it's up above the rear axle. And engraving on this is actually pretty nice. They've got a lot of finer details, like these holes in the corners of the chassis, that some of their older kits just kind of avoided. But at the same time, it's got the upper control arms cast in. It's got the bottom of the radiator cast in, so some good, some not as good. We'll see how it looks when it's painted. The main interior bucket, which does have separate door panels. Center console is cast in. And here's the door panels and the dashboard. Again, very reminiscent of the Monte Carlo with the separate instrument cluster, but very nice engraving on the radio and comfort controls there in the middle of the dash. And last thing for this bag, the two-part seats. And the last parts bag, we've got the steering wheel, air cleaner, and finally getting into some body components. The engraving on this is not bad, maybe a little shallow on the grille. It would have been nice if that was a little bit deeper so that could be opened up easily. But the headlight buckets are nice and sharp, and so is the bumper trim. And here we've got the hood, which some people have said it's too bad that we didn't get the bulge as a separate piece, and I kind of agree with that. It would have been nice to be able to build this as just a Cutlass, or at least looking like just a Cutlass rather than the Hurst only. Because we do have the separate side skirts there at the top, and separate spoiler. And finally, we've got the body. And it does have the cast-in engine bay, and a lot of people are unhappy about that, but honestly, I didn't have a problem with how it looked on the old kits. I didn't have a problem with the Starsky & Hutch Torino, and with a little paint and detail work, they actually don't look that bad. You don't get as much detail as you would if these were all separate pieces, but really, I don't have a problem with that. Window trim and belt line are nice and sharp. Panels look a little shallow, so I want to go back and touch them up with a knife. But overall, it's not a bad looking piece. And for comparison, here's the Monte Carlo SS and the Buick Grand National bodies. Here's where you can see that, yeah, the new Olds is definitely 1/25th and a little bit smaller than the two older kits, but that's unfortunate. I really wish that they had kept that consistent so that all three of these could be parked next to each other and look the same. It's not a huge difference, but you can see, yeah, the Olds wheelbase is a little bit shorter, the body's a little shorter. It's just a little bit smaller overall. And again, Monte Carlo, a little bit shorter. A little bit smaller overall. Because for those who don't know, all three of these cars from GM were based on the same platform, so they should have the same proportions. Like when you compare the Buick on the bottom and the Monte Carlo on the top, you can see that, yeah, those are pretty much the same size car. And that's the way that it should be. And the last comparison I wanted to make was the chassis. This is the Monte Carlo SS, and this is the Buick Grand National. And as you can see, they're very similar, as they should be. Again, from this angle, these cars were essentially identical from General Motors. But the fronts are really where you see the big difference. And that's because the cars had different noses, so they needed different support systems underneath. Here we have the Monte Carlo and the Oldsmobile. And again, they look very similar, as they should. You can see the scale difference here, like you could with the body. But if you look closer, you can see that nothing from the old kit has been retooled, reused, modified. You see here with the frame rails versus here where it's actually open and drilled out. You can see the fuel tank and the spare tire are much shallower on the new kit than they were on this old one. The way that the rear suspension arms are done, this area is completely different. So yeah, Revell did in fact do an all new tooling on this. There's definitely nothing that they reused from the old kits. So credit goes to them for that. And so there you have it. It's nice to finally get this kit. It's been a long time coming. And while it's not perfect, I really do wish that they had done it in 24th scale instead of 25th. And it would have been nice to get the non-Hurst options for it. But really, those are my only griefs with it. I don't mind the cast-in engine bay. I don't mind the simplified chassis. It would have been easier to do a super detailed without those being done that way, but my builds of the Monte Carlo in the past have shown that, yeah, they can look pretty good with just a little bit of extra work. And I'm going to get started right in on this, so check back next week for the first installment on how it goes together. Thanks for watching.